Happy 5th November or Happy Guy Fawkes Night. I don't know if you're celebrating. Usually in the UK, it's a moment where people just go see a magnificent bonfire. Is probably what I'm going to do with my own family. But more importantly, I think it's a way to reflect on a very important historical moment of our country. So what happened? Well, it's the Gunpowder plot. It's something that we talk a lot about, and at the same time I think remains a mystery for many people. That night is the pinnacle of decades of discontent, of different factions in England. It's about religion without truly being about religion. It's about Catholics who are tired of being discriminated against, who are tired of being persecuted for their faith, who are also very torn between their allegiance to Pope, to European, Catholicism, and to their own country. It actually stems from Elizabeth I's reign, and it's a very complex movement that is going to basically lead to the 5th November 1605. I don't want you to think where it's just, some men that went a bit crazy. There's this Guy Fawkes who is they didn't really know what they were doing. They knew exactly what they were doing. They had planned it. Now, what I love also about the Gunpowder plot is the secrecy around it, the secret networks, who's really aware of what. And it's very hard to determine because the Catholic network who were in charge of the Gunpowder plot were planning the coup. It's a coup d'etat. We're planning the coup d'etat. It's the assassination not just of the king and of his eldest son and his wife. It's the assassination of, members of parliament. Ramification, if the Gunpowder plot had succeeded, would have been absolutely insane. And that's what we're going to discuss in this video. But first, I want you to understand that it really is about, it is about power. It is about, it also a fight for freedom in many ways. And so when I'm going to actually discuss with you two scenarios of what if the Gunpowder plot had succeeded. But to understand these two scenarios, you kind of need to understand that it's not about a crazy guy named Guy Fawkes who just wanted to blow up the parliament. It's about people rebelling and trying to take power to create massive change in the country. It is also, I believe, not really an idea of republicanism. So I'm not going to really entertain that idea because I believe that, the rebels who were behind the Gunpowder plot still wanted the monarchy. They just wanted more influence, more agency in the new government, in the new establishment, almost in the new country. Well, the first thing that would have happened if the Gunpowder plot had succeeded is the total destruction of the House of Lords, the House of Commons, Westminster Hall, and probably a part of Westminster Abbey. And why I'm saying that, because I really want you to understand here that is basically the embodiment of the English government that would have completely disappeared. Buildings are important. Buildings have meanings. Buildings help also, think about civilization, but also structure, hierarchy, and such a massive destruction would have impacted people's daily life, would have created an enormous chaos everywhere. Now, the question we can ask ourselves is that would the Gunpowder plot would have created an English civil war? For me, it's a very difficult answer because some historians might argue that we can compare it with the assassination of Henry III of France in 1589 and it triggered more bloodshed. We have to remember that since 1585 there was a civil war in France. So I think, his assassination was not the trigger for a civil war. And I don't think that if it had happened, the assassination of King James I of England, VI of Scotland, would have triggered a civil war. And I'm going to tell you why. I probably think because Henry Garnet, the English Jesuit, who was very much influential and powerful, would not have approved the assassination of the king, queen and his eldest son. He didn't really approve the plot. I'm not sure how much he was aware of it. We probably think he was very much aware that there was something going on, scheming behind the curtains and everything. He probably knew a lot more than we can expect. However, we know as well that he doesn't fully give his support. By not giving his support, he also protects all the other Catholics in England, but also in Europe. He protects the Catholics who are in Europe and who are extremely strong royalists. And I think it's something we cannot just dismiss. As I said, the Gunpowder Plot is not about Republican ideals. It really is about a group of people who want to be more influential. It's a power struggle between how the Catholics have been treated for decades and the Protestantism that is being more and more established in England and Scotland. So here it really is about this more than it is about ideals of republicanism. So I don't think there would have been an English civil war, and I think here we can see it in two ways, the way it would have gone. We know that the rebels wanted to capture, obviously, Elizabeth Stuart and Charles, the youngest boy of James. Charles, the one who's going to become king in 1625. So here, he would have been 4 years old instead of 24 years old. Why am I telling you this? Because obviously his age played a huge part in the two scenarios I'm going to give you. The first scenario is simple. Charles is raised by the rebels as a Catholic king. And here we can imagine a lot of things happening. We can imagine a break between Scotland and England. We can imagine that he would have still married Henrietta Maria of France because she was a Catholic princess. And we can imagine that there would have been some sort of alliance between Ireland and England. We could imagine that there would be less settlers sent to Ireland, the Protestant settlers, the English Protestant settlers. And by the time, though they were still trying to conquer Ireland, it was massively a failure. So here we can really imagine that as a Catholic king, he would have played a big part in the Counter-Reformation. It would have completely changed the landscape of British history. And even saying British here is wrong. I think it would have changed the context of English history. It would have created more animosity with Scotland, Protestantism, and maybe more wars with Scotland. It would have created a greater alliance with France. It would have, in many ways, reestablished kind of the order of powers in Europe prior to the break of Rome of Henry VIII in 1533. We can even imagine that Elizabeth Stuart would have been sent, to a Catholic country instead of a Protestant country. So that another, kind of big change in history. But if he had been rescued by Protestants, he would have probably been even more convinced of implementing a Protestant regime like in Sweden or Denmark. It would have been a much stronger Protestant state. And in many ways here, it means that we probably have had no civil war, because there would have been no all these questions of, was he or not, too interested in Catholic ideas. So it would have been another outcome with no English civil war. And I believe that he would have been probably even more popular. There would have been no regicide, probably no republic with Cromwell. Let that sink in as well in terms of ramifications, in terms of changes, in terms of what it means, right? To have the Gunpowder Plot succeed. We think about the Gunpowder Plot as just this event of this crazy guy. It's not that. It's a really power struggle. It's an attempt of a coup d'etat with a massive, consequence if it had gone the way the rebels wanted it to go. And I think sometimes we kind of dismiss that this 5th November night is much more than, just someone trying to blow up the parliament. Coup d'etat, and it's a change of king, not of regime. And it is about faction, it is about power, it is about networks of power. And I think that's so fascinating to do these what if history videos, because we realize the importance of some important historical moments. I really hope that you enjoyed that what if in history video on the gunpowder plot. Leave the comments down below and tell me what you think would have happened, or if you think that I missed anything that in terms of consequences. I want to hear from you. These videos are for you. I hope you enjoy your bonfire night, and I'll see you next time for another video. Don't forget to watch my other content and to subscribe. Thank you so much, guys. Bye!